Hello everyone, this is 5Spires here with another video today. Today we are talking about Unicorn Trilogy Optimus Prime / Convoy's character from the show. For this video, this is part 1 of the Armada / Micron Legend. Part 2 will be coming up right at this moment, so if you don't see part 2 yet, it should be on my channel. And I will just put a link in my description or my cards. And for the other shows that I will be talking about for Energon and Cybertron shows in the trilogy, I will talk about those two shows in 2 separate videos later on. In general, most of Optimus Prime / Convoy's character's growth in the Unicorn Trilogy was mostly in the Armada / Micron Legends. Also in phone notes, throughout the video, I will make mistakes on one character and how much the Japanese versions will change the names. I have made a slideshow of the characters that will flip-flop or just say in one slide. I prefer how I call their name. In my opinion, they just sound better. It's a bunch of spaghetti brain, so that's why I have this PowerPoint, so I can discuss the character names, animation mistakes, and how the animators fix the animation for our Micron Legend, and how I prefer Micron Legend over Armada. That doesn't mean I share the same sentiment for Armada and the dubbing. For the early 2000s dub is one of my favorites, and the VAs have done a great job voicing the characters. Gary Chalk is a really good sub for Peter Cullen, but we already know that Peter is the king of Optimus Prime, and he is there for the original VA. Credit is credit's due. Gary Chalk isn't a slouch on the couch as well. He has done previous in voice acting such as in Beast Wars, voicing Optimus Primal. So going into the role of Optimus Prime in the Armada series was a cakewalk, as his voice acting list behind the voice actor website of the credits he has done was his talents, especially early 3D shows like in Reboot and commercials of the Transformer ads and some G.I. Joe roles. Mostly we were just seeing him in minor roles in recent times, but I'm kind of hoping he does come back and voice Optimus Primal or as UT Optimus Prime again. Just hearing the iconic line, "Our worlds are in danger," from Gary just make my heart aflutter. It is nice he voiced millennials and Gen Z's childhoods. I'm very happy he still voice acts to this day. Also, Micron Legends VA, we got Toru Okawa, if I can pronounce that correctly. In his bio, he also voiced Roy Mustang from Fullmetal Alchemist. Not Brotherhood. There we go. The 2003 one. Looking at his bio, he of course has done a lot of minor roles these days, and a lot of older male characters. You just get old, and you just have to, you get what you get, or something. But it's kind of cool. He voiced Ratchet in their version of the dubbing of Transformers Animated. His voice sounded young and kind of like those Sentai Rangers shows if you have the chance to watch the original and not the American Power Rangers version. That is how Convoy is expected to sound like. Almost sounds like the Red Ranger leader from Sentai. It is odd why all of Convoy's VAs are switched out throughout Unicron Trilogy. Normally that isn't the case, but I guess we're going for a contract similar to how Mark Hamill voiced Majima from Yakuza 1 and doesn't remember it. And it's just how contract voice acting works. Also going for a lot of VAs on here, this behind the voice actor website, and we got However, Gary does play the role of a leader character and protecting his friends, and also being kind to everyone, while also not judging from people's appearances in their previous actions. The episode where Starscream's betrayal shows how his kindness helps a lot of people, but also hurt those who he trusted him. The scene with Hotshot blaming Optimus Prime has got to be one of my favorite moments in the dub. Hotshot yells at Optimus Prime for not seeing Starscream's deception earlier, but also the actions that now the most powerful weapons, the Minicons / the Microns, the Star Saber sword, the shield, and the blaster, are now in Decepticon hands, making one of the most huge losses for the Autobot team. The team knows the chances of winning is greatly below. Optimus Prime not saying anything to Hotshot, and how Optimus Prime acts with selfless intent. What matters is how everyone acts, and what's important that Optimus strives for, a future where everyone can live in harmony. Optimus tries his best to understand both sides, but figures out the root problem and finds a plan to heal that rift. It isn't perfect, but to Optimus, he tries his hardest to make sure both sides are okay, and the fighting stops. Though the very thing, his own sacrifice of his personality for others, is a burden that he carries throughout the whole Unicron trilogy. Optimus tells himself that what he is going to do when the war is over. He speaks out his own feelings on what he wants, or is able to reach his own personal goals. That's why I love Optimus Prime as a character. The sacrifices that he makes as a leader, but also asking the question, what will he do after all the fighting stops? Because that's all he knows. He makes the choice every day on the friends and allies he makes could potentially hurt them if he makes the wrong choice. And yet, he kept his character growth since Armada, whereas there's a big difference in the Japanese version, even though it's the same show. The Micron legend shares the similarities, but it's translated that we see Convoy struggles, if not, he is very harsh towards himself. He doesn't understand if he could accept or reject his darker half. Convoy in the Micron series hides this version of himself in fear he is to Megatron. Without the power of the Matrix, Convoy is nothing more than a transformer robot and has a goal of becoming stronger, where he contradicts himself that he is the different by following or having some skewed version of justice. He believes that he is not Megatron and isn't striving power to tie the war. So why does everyone tell him in the Japanese version he's a hypocrite of his own inner conflicts? We'll keep this in mind as we go ahead and talk about the history of the dub versus the sub wars in this segment. Strangely enough, when Armada first aired in 2002, Robots in Disguise 2000 has ended. It was a time for a reboot or put up a new fresh to the new show. By this time, they haven't got the rights of Bumblebee yet, as they had to get a new cast of characters. I'll be mostly saying these ones for the most of the video, and the rest of the videos I am going to talk about Armada / Micron Legend. I have established that these are used in the English names, except for Double Face. I prefer Double Face over Sideways because of spoilers, and Stepper over Sideswipe because that ain't Sideswipe. There's another note that I will mess up Optimus Prime and Convoy, and Megatron and Galvatron. If I say the wrong one, I'm just letting you know I am still talking about the same character. That being said, I'll note here that Armada show aired in North America before Japanese did, which you can tell the rush animation for most of the episodes. You can see this in a lot of scenes where the frames just tend to be reused or freeze frame, or just edit lip flap movements, as it's just easier for the editors for the English dubbing. We're scrambled around. Kind of how 4Kids did all the censoring thing, but whatever. It is kind of weird to see that, but you just do what you do. However, in the Micron Legend, the animators let that animation bake for a little bit longer, and now it is fixed. However, it is strange seeing this footage back, knowing that if there wasn't a high demand in North America, we would have gotten the better animation. And it just looks embarrassing in the episode where Jetfire's first appearance in the show, where the editors have to find a way to increase the episode's runtime, which with the clearly unfinished animation. It is surprising that the animators for this show went back to reanimate or add more scenes to touch up, as well as where the line weight needs to be thickened or showing more Like, for example, Smokescreen getting heavily injured by Megatron by the blaster. Also, they aired those fixed animations for the Japanese version of the anime. I'm not sure the North American DVDs of Armada was the updated animations, but if someone owns the DVDs, and just let me know, and I'll make an update in like the comments. But seriously, that extra scene where Megatron shoots Smokescreen, so much death, a small change can make a show even better. Nevertheless, people would go on which version of the show you should watch. And I don't blame you that this kind of war isn't for the faint of heart. I say both versions of the show is valid. Just pick one and just watch the other version later. It all depends how you consume your media. I can't tell you or force you to watch the Japanese version as a first-time viewing. Sometimes it is better to look away and listen in the background. As for me, I have preferred dubs over subs. Before, a wild comparison is a game called Judgment. Judgment is a spin-off game from the most popular series Yakuza, or is now known in the industry like a dragon. There are some times where you're just tired of listening to the old voice cast, the Japanese one, and you just feel like you're not connecting with the story. The moment when I switched the sub to dub, I immediately connected to the game and have over, embarrassingly enough, 120 hours on one of my save files, and possibly played this game for almost 300 hours. And yeah, man, I need to really get out more. In any case, just don't feel pressured of choosing a version of the show. Choose the one that you connect the most, and then come back to the other show that people recommend to watch. Okay, let's get into color theory and character design. Before we go into analyzing the heck out of the show, I want you to take a break for a moment, and we will call this segment Optimus Prime in his most design looks like Batman, or whatever the case. If you blacken out his silhouette, the comparison is a bit uncanny, even in the Michael Bay films. That is probably the intent, as it should be. We also have to consider that Optimus is blue, red, and yellow. Of course, in color theory, that is a triadic color scheme. Megatron is also a triadic color scheme, but also he shares the green, purple, and orange, which is the villainous colors. Side note, that Megatron's helmet, it's supposed to be like a stag beetle, like a Japanese stag beetle. Like in mythos, is supposed to show royalty, and in his name he's always Sama, which also means Lord. But I'm such a Canadian that his helmet just screams out moose to me. And one of my family members just pointed that out, and we just burst out laughing. But just moving on the color wheel, the three colors oppose to each other, yet these are vibrant colors. They complement each other, and short words, the triadic color scheme is harmony. And who else uses these colors? You guessed it, Superman. Optimus Prime's character, of course, shares the same leader trope, being his mellow personality, and you want to understand everyone and get to know better. However, in the Japanese version, like I said earlier, he hides his darker trait, which he skews the sense of his justice and his reasons to keep on fighting. So keep this in mind from Optimus Prime part in part 2. Optimus Prime, much like Batman, needs justice, but also fears of becoming the thing he desperately wants to separate from. He fears his responsibilities or a misjudgment of his own beliefs. He becomes the thing he desperately held in all this time. But we will get to that point, so we can just move on for this. Mostly in the beginning of the show, the reasons Optimus and his crew came to Earth was the threat of the Decepticons fighting the Minicons. For some, the majority of the show is a bit lighthearted and episodic, as it is mostly an arms race of who can collect the Minicons. and the power of the 9 minicons that we get into later. But most of the show can just be skipped, besides the episode where Sideways was deceiving everyone on the Autobot side and joining the Decepticons, and his actual name being Doubleface. I think by halfway, where we know the Decepticons are losing really hard, that they needed a win, by the time that Doubleface betrays the Autobots for the Decepticons, that's when the show sort of stops being like a Pokemon, a show for the kids, and really gets in the meat and potatoes of the show. You can just watch the slow distress between Megatron and Starscream, but that's kind of up to you if you want to skip ahead to the best parts of the show. Plus, I already did a video on this, so when Smokescreen gets himself heavily injured, Optimus felt responsible for the pain that he caused on Smokescreen and for the minicons stolen. That moment, he was such a failure. If he could figure out the ruse of Megatron set up, Smokescreen wouldn't be in this mess. Both versions of his scream that he couldn't do anything but tell us all we need to know. He showed a crack in his leadership, and he feels guilty letting his teammate, his best friend, in a near-death and possible situation. Except for they didn't let Smokescreen die. After like one episode later, fine, this show's bonkers anyways. This is probably the only time that the writers wrote this way so fast. Hey, we can just move on to Optimus Prime's death, right? Cool. Of course, it continues into Starscream, defect from the Decepticons for a little bit. Optimus was kind enough to give him protection and make Starscream a part of the team, even though his own teammates and his friends think otherwise, even though Doubleface's betrayal. Though the right choice to imprison Starscream for the time being, in technicality, Optimus killed Starscream with kindness, and he got punished for his ignorance. As I said earlier, the scene where Hotshot yells after Starscream's betrayal is one of my favorite scenes in the Armada series. We felt for another misjudgment, another failure. We're not seeing this coming. He does feel the hurt from Starscream, but also hurt the people who looked up to him. You also feel the edge. You know the Autobot side is just losing so hard that the most powerful minicons are now on Decepticon side. Just put in the scale how screwed they are. Doubleface tells Thrust, who are also wanting to dethrone Megatron, a fairy tale story of collecting the main powerful weapons, the blaster, the shield, and the sword. Those Thrust just chalk it up to fairy tale, of course, by bringing them the minicons together. So Thrust comes up with a plan convincing Starscream to help dethrone Megatron. This works as Starscream doesn't believe in Optimus Prime and his Autobot friends that he could defeat Megatron. All of his works in Megatron's favor, and he sets out a plan to destroy Earth with the power of the minicons. The reason why this is important for Optimus' character growth is where the moment there are cracks in his own foundation. He refuses to stand up to Starscream or have some sense of control what Starscream's doing is wrong. Optimus is one of those kinds of people who is too kind to him, and he paid the ultimate price for his actions. That being after Hotshot yells at Optimus for his misjudgment. Optimus in the next episode dies while protecting Earth from the superweapon. Optimus Prime's color scheme changes from a white husk and crumbles into pieces. The solar wind spreads what is left of him all over the solar system, and possibly around the Milky Way. The only thing that's left of Optimus is his matrix of leadership, being securely held by his personal minicon. Jetfire comes to see what is left of Optimus, and lets out a shrieking wail, and he takes the Matrix and the minicons back to Earth. The whole team is devastated by his death. It is hard on Hotshot the most because the last time the two talked to each other was fighting each other. Hotshot realized that he didn't have a chance to apologize to Optimus. Even Megatron doesn't understand why Optimus had to die. His equal now gone, without a thought, Megatron decides to go back to Cybertron, just to take over, as there's nothing left in his way to hold him back and win the war. Everyone just feels so empty, or the reason to fight is just pointless. What is the point of destroying Earth when they're not there to witness it? Though post-death Optimus Prime continues to people he once was, he looked up to. This especially was hard on Hotshot. If you know where his original Japanese name, Hot Rod, it isn't a stretch that he will be the next in line of becoming a Prime, but we see that Hotshot believes he could not lead a team after being mad at Optimus before his death. How can he be a team with that responsibility? Of course, we got Scavenger, Optimus's old friend from his younger years, to shape up Hotshot to become the new leader for the Autobots. Hotshot promises everyone that he will do his best, despite he doesn't deserve to be the new leader. This results them also planning to go back to Cybertron in hopes of defeating Megatron regardless how much power is on one side. As long as there is hope, there is nothing that the darkness could ever touch. It is fruitless against Megatron, but it is enough for Hotshot and the other Autobots to make the decision and protect their home. Though it was completely unnecessary, but also needed, Optimus comes back after a few episodes later. Optimus is Micron, as I'll call him, his Japanese version of his name, Prime, because it's a nod to his name in an English version. Prime uses the Matrix of Leadership in episode 42, Miracle, by using their song to communicate with the other Minicons, and the Minicons work together to bring back all the fragments of Optimus around the galaxy to the center of the Matrix and reform Optimus before he died. Although this is very cheap writing, but very nice to see Megatron feeling, or the will that he finally gets to fight Optimus again. The sudden emptiness within Megatron that the war isn't over yet. This is my favorite version of how Optimus can be brought back compared to the other forms of media we have consumed. Nevertheless, Optimus is back, and we continued on to episode 43, where we get new toys and a change of color, and also the best part, Nemesis Prime, which I'll end this video right here, as part 2 will be up at the same time as this video. So I will put the link up, as well as all the description and the pinned comment below, and the IV card, so you can get on to the next part. So end it right here and go on to the next part. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day. Bye.